All right, well, welcome. A little bit of an off-schedule recording today. If you look on your screen, you'll see the lovely, lovely Gonzo. Are you in the shed or are you in your basement?
No, I'm under the stairs. I'm under the stairs. This is so impromptu. I didn't even have time to make it to the shed, my friend.
Oh, you see, I was gonna have you put. I was gonna do logos and like look at the shed, but
Next time we'll do another one soon, and I'll be in the shed. All the lights and the LEDs and the moody music. No moody music, but yeah, we'll do it in the shed next time.
I'd be better with the moody music. Hey, how are you? Are you doing okay?
Yeah, I'm well. I'm well. What about yourself? Getting ready for Thanksgiving first?
It's American Thanksgiving today. I'm Canadian, so we went and watched a hockey game last night.
I
Hey,
saw pictures.
yeah, you could tell my oldest was really into it by the look on his face of like, I'd rather be dead. Hey, there's two things we're going to talk about today. One is something that went out in Claret and Hugh the other day. You actually did a 10-minute lunchtime video on your second YouTube channel about it. So if people are wondering what I'm talking about, go take a look there. A new Claret and Hugh follower solely goes by the name of John. And listen, I understand it's tough. It's a little dangerous sometimes exposing yourself on social media. I appreciate that. He makes some comments about the fans. You had a chance to respond to that. Could you give us a brief review of what your feelings are about this article?
Well, I don't mind the article. I mean, firstly, I think what's happened is John, and I don't blame him for having some form of anonymity, has come from Claret and Hugh's Facebook group, which is obviously a private affair. And I think he'd probably voiced his opinions from within there. And Hugh said, "Well, hold on, that's a different point of view. Let's put that up there and make it into an article." And that has become a source for well, a lot of response, really. I haven't actually dealt with the points, though. I've got to say, what I said was on social media, because somebody said, "Oh, this is disgusting, this is disgraceful," and I said, "Well, actually, I wouldn't mind debating with the guy each and every point individually, because I do believe if you've got an opinion, you should be allowed an opinion. It's just
Absolutely.
I would." If I've got a counter opinion, I just always like the opportunity to argue
Well,
back
there's
against it, mate.
there's a couple of things he says here that I actually take a little bit of issue with. He says the problem is not the manager, it's not his team, it's not the players, it's not the stadium, it's not the board. He says, what if it's the fans? Now, his first point, the fans never back the team when times are hard. Now, Gonzo, you've cheered for this club for more than a week or two. Have times ever been difficult in the past when you've cheered for West Ham?
Yeah, of course. I'd say some of the times we were at our loudest was after we'd been relegated. We've got a lot of gallows humour at West Ham, actually. So if things are getting bad, we can laugh at ourselves. We can be 5-0 down and start singing we're going to win 6-5. That's part of the West Ham way, as much as the tippy-tappy football and anything else. I think I don't mind him asking the question, which is why I say, okay, that's fine. You think the fans are to blame? Let's hear your arguments and let's deal with them one at a time, as you're doing now. So, and then we might just find out that you're wrong at the end of it. But at least we've argued. I don't think that's the case at all to suggest that West Ham fans don't back the club when the going gets tough. It suggests we're fair weather fans. You are not a glory hunter if you support this club. If what you're doing is you're looking around for a team to support and you're thinking, oh, you know what, I think I quite fancy a team in the Premier League. You don't go and support West Ham if you're a glory hunter. You go and you choose Manchester City right now. To suggest that we are glory hunters is it's just wrong, and I could back it up with so much evidence. It doesn't even. It almost does. It's not almost worthy of giving the evidence.
So on the American side, there's a group of us who are on a WhatsApp group, and we're kind of laughing at this. We're the guys who spend $600 to fly over for a weekend, get a overpriced hotel. Of course, according to West Ham, we don't buy our tickets from anybody. We just show up near the London Stadium and just feel the vibes. We would never buy tickets from other people. I take a lot of umbrage with this, not backing the team when the time is hard. There's people who showed up at 5:30 last Saturday to watch Tottenham at a bar in downtown Denver. Bar wasn't even open for drinks. You couldn't get breakfast till 7. They still had a fairly good showing. So
they knew we were going to lose.
Well, that is part of the West Ham way, the expectation of the loss. So yeah, perhaps you're right. Maybe there are some fair weather fans, but there's 60,000 people with tickets showing up on a Saturday or a Sunday. That doesn't strike me as people not backing the board. Those are people still showing up and still caring.
Well, I think you can not back the board, but still support the team. And that's what I think we
Fair.
do.
Yeah, fair. So you're right, but we're backing the team. Listen, it's embarrassing sometimes. I was in New York City this past summer. Borussia Dortmund was playing in New York City. I happened to be going to a meeting. I had a West Ham shirt on, and I ran into Borussia Dortmund's players. And they kind of looked at me in the West Ham shirt, kind of looked at each other and kind of giggled and just kind of said, hey, have a good day. Listen, we're not glory hunters, and people know how bad we are, but we're still going to be here behind the team. Do you think, in your experience, do we give the manager enough time? That's one of the other complaints here.
Yeah, I don't think it's hard, because I think there was a time when we'd had something like 9 managers in 100 years or something like that. So we have a tradition for giving managers plenty of time. Do we call for the head of the manager far earlier now? Yes, we do. But I would actually suggest that Bilic, in particular, it depends on the manager. Bilic was perhaps given more time. People were very lenient with Bilic, even though performances had started to go, results had started to go, and we're drifting towards the bottom of the table. Up until very, very recently, I think Pellegrini, everybody wanted to give Pellegrini time. Everybody wanted Pellegrini to do well. And I still don't really hear anybody saying anything nasty about him. Could we give Pellegrini more time? I guess we could. But what I would suggest is, I think the fans are wise enough to know, actually, they've seen Wolves play very recently. They've seen Chelsea play very recently. They sort of know what's going on at Arsenal as well. Even Southampton have picked up form. And I think sometimes, yes, could we give him more time? But you need some shred of evidence that things are going to get better. And what doesn't help is Pellegrini saying, no, I'm going to carry on doing things exactly the same way. He said it in his press conference today. I'm sticking with what I do. Things will get better. And I think when he says that, then I think we're looking at it and thinking we're going to lose our games. And then when you've got games like Oxford, then I think you've got to look at it in context and take each example. And I think at the moment things aren't looking like things are getting better. If Pellegrini had turned around and said, you know what, things are terrible at the moment, I'm going to turn it around, I'm going to do things differently, I'm going to play with a bit more width and a bit more pace, I'm going to swap the team around, and in January I'm going to bring in and change X, Y and Z positions, I think then the fans would say, okay, let's see what he can do, let's give him some time. But I think if he's just saying that things are going to stay exactly the same, which he is, I think we all know we're only going one way, and it would be relegated if we carry on this form.
There's a gentleman named Eugene Gordon. He's on Twitter, and he's made the comment he knows quite a few City fans. One of the things that they warned him about is once Pellegrini sets his mind on something, he does not change his mind. Right now, I think you're bang on that he's not changing his mind. It is interesting. I think, okay, I'm going to give Pellegrini this much credit. It looks like Ayang was withheld from the U23s yesterday, and David Martin has been practicing as the keeper this week. So it sounds like he's maybe realized Roberto is not ready for the job that's in front of him, which is, it's good. It's late, but it's good. Yeah. I'm going to ask you one other question from this article. Do you think that we never give the board any credit for what they do for the club?
I don't think that's particularly true. Not that I care. And we've got to separate that as well. Sure. This board don't start with a clean slate. You don't appraise them and judge them as you would judge anybody else. And because the context in is that they have taken us from our home, our spiritual home and our real home, and promised us the earth, and they've not delivered it. So that in itself stops you from cutting people a certain amount of slack. If someone lies to you in everyday life, and they promise you lots of things, then they don't deliver, and then they start charging you a little bit more than they said they would and stuff like that, they don't start with a clean slate. You don't treat them in the same way that you treat other people. Why? Because you've got history. And the point of the matter is, we've got history. You've only got to look at the owner's comments about what would happen when we move stadium.
Yeah.
So you have, when we are generous with our praise when they do well. You have to take that into account, the history of the relationship to the fans and the owners, and because we're not going to be trusting. So actually, they're starting from 2 paces back. So actually, they've got to work a little bit harder. What I would say is on Pellegrini's first transfer window, when he was splashing all the money, and they backed him, and they brought in Yarmolenko and Felipe Anderson and Issa Diop, and it seemed like every week there was a new player signing. I think we maybe spent almost 100 million, quite possibly.
Something in that area, yeah.
I'm telling you what, there was praise. People were saying, well, do you know what? Fair play. Finally, it was faint praise because of the history. People were saying, finally, he's put his hands in his pocket. People were praised about that. And he should have been praised about that. But if what we're meant to do is manufacture praise and pretend that the stadium move has been a success, to pretend that the ticketing has been a success, well, that wouldn't be right. That wouldn't be accurate. We shouldn't praise that because they've got it wrong. They've got to be... A lot of the time, this board have to be dragged kicking and screaming over hot coals before they do anything. Literally, the people had to be... There was a baying mob with pitchforks underneath the director's box at the Burnley game before they actually went and did anything. And that mitigates any praise that you might give them. So have we praised them? Yes, but not a lot, but they don't deserve a lot.
Yeah, and I'll be upfront. I'm coming at it from a very North American point of view. It is not typical, in my experience, that you know the owners as well as you do. And I don't consider them the board. I consider them the owners. And I want to divest a little of emotional response there, because my emotional response to these gentlemen is not positive. So I want to stick to reality. This is a huge industry. I don't know if you heard it, but Manchester City is now, as an industry, valued at $5 billion. Because of some U.S. equity firm just rolled 500 million pounds, pardon me, 500 million pounds for 10% in the entire Manchester City franchise, which includes the New York City franchise and one in Beijing and one in the Indian League, I think, or Malaysia. That's an enormous check, and most of that money is about Man City. Well, there's a reason why Man City's worth that much. They're successful, and their ownership has rolled a lot of their own personal cash into this. These are not businesses that are here to make money. The way to think about a football club, it's a trophy. You own it. It costs you money. Now, Sullivan and Gold, they're businessmen. They want equity out of this. They're trying to make money out of this. I don't really have a problem with it. But somewhere along the way, I would like them just to go, look, we're here to keep the club afloat. We'll stay in the Premiership. Don't expect too much. We're just here, and we're a little bit here for the money. Now, maybe I'm being a bit harsh, but that's the way I read the tea leaves. It doesn't seem as if they're not only their heart, but their wallet doesn't quite appear to be in the spirit of competing with the Man City, Man United, Liverpool, etc. I don't blame them. They don't have billions and billions of dollars. They have $1 billion. Yeah. So that really limits them. So one of the things I think that is fair to say is we are at the place where we've probably gone as far as we're going to go with these guys. It might be time for them to go, it's time for us to sell up. Now, some of the valuation of the club seems a little bit crazy. I don't think it's worth 500 million pounds. They seem to. For those of you who are watching this, I encourage you, I will put a link to this article in afterwards. I want to move on. There's one other thing
just before you do, what I want to say, because we get quite a lot of criticism on our channels, on our forum, on everything else. And because we are a forum, we're all about discussions. I would defend anybody's right to give their opinion, and particularly give their opinion about receiving abuse. I defend Claret and Hughes' right to post that article up, but I also defend my own right to answer those questions, particularly when I disagree wholeheartedly with what he said. But he's all right. He's fine. He's fine to say it, but I don't blame him. It's a shame he has to hide his name. But yeah, there you go.
Well, and here's the thing. You and I sent some messages back and forth on Twitter. And I thought it was worth our time to actually spend a few minutes going, Gonzo, the floor is kind of yours. Let you answer them. I am not here to demean the individual. If that's his position, more power to him. There are a lot of divergent views at West Ham. We're a big family, and families have a little dysfunction. Speaking of dysfunction, our manager is currently on thin ice. It sounds like there's 3 games for him to turn things around. One thing that was asked of me yesterday is, does the club need 3 games worth of time to go find the right manager and negotiate a good deal? That's one thing. But one of the things that you pointed out to me was we all have a very different idea of what it's going to cost to get rid of Pellegrini versus what you think the real number is. So I've been treating it as 15 million pounds because we got to pay the rest of his contract. We got to pay Husilius and the rest of the backroom staff off to say, here you go, here's the end of your contract. But you've got documentation from the news organization says that's not right. Talk to us about what you know.
Okay, when Pellegrini started his reign, he started off really, really badly. And as you remember, his first season, he lost a lot of games. There was a lot of pressure on the board, and people were asking them, fans were asking them, well, hold on, have you bought a lame duck here? Is this somebody that was in retirement in China and now you've committed him to a 3-year deal? Is this going to cost us tens of millions of pounds? Now, the board, as they have a tendency to do, went and briefed everybody. And their briefing to everybody was that, no, Pellegrini is on a 12-month rolling contract. They said to everybody, look, we hope he turns his form around, but the reality, these are their words, but the reality is that very few managers can survive 5 losses on the bounce. If that were to be the case, he has a 12-month rolling contract. If we have to pay up his 12-month rolling contract, it will be about 6 million for him in wages, plus if he started, it would turn out to be about 7 or 8 million pounds. Now, this is not some backstreet conversation that somebody's had. You can Google Pellegrini 12-month rolling contract. You can pull up the Evening Standard. You can pull up the Guardian. So the Evening Standard's chief sports writer is a guy called Ken Dyer. Ken Dyer is mates with David Sullivan. The guy that wrote the article is John Dillon. John Dillon is a regular at London Stadium. He's also a West Ham fan. He's written for the Daily Express, the Daily Mail, the Telegraph. The Guardian reported it. Football London reported it. Carrot and Hugh reported it. Everybody reported it because at the time the board wanted everybody to know we've not mucked up. Don't worry. If we need to get rid of him, we can, and it won't cost us the earth. And that was the story as of 4 games into last season. And it's there for all to see.
I want to put that in context for people. We signed Ayeti for £8 million. So it is the cost of Ayeti to get rid of Manuel and the rest of his staff. Now, I'm going to ask you a difficult question, and I want you to have the freedom to answer this any way you want. Sure seems like a lot of people feel really comfortable pushing the 15 million pound number around right now, and there seems to be maybe, I wouldn't say that the club itself is pushing that number, but nobody's disputing it now. Do you kind of agree that this detail's been lost recently for convenience sake?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I did a video today, a lunchtime video, and it's all about this, about the club take us for fools. The club expect us to be stupid and to have short memories on that. And it was everywhere. It was in the news. As I say, a simple Google search will bring it up. Now, it's not advantageous for them to let it be known that he's cheap to release. Now the narrative has changed. They don't want us. They want us to think that they're doing us a favour. Because as you've probably noticed, that the latest spin is that they got Pellegrini in because we chose him as fans, which is something I tackle in the video as well, which we didn't. He didn't top anybody's poll, by the way. But it suits the narrative now for them to say, OK, well, you want us to release him. It's going to cost you a lot of money now, and we're going to pay it out of the kindness of our hearts, out of our wallets. Let's just look around to see what change we've got in our pockets. Oh, dear. No, I'm sorry. It's going to be 15 to 20 million. And I think they just hope that everybody's forgotten. I think they just hope that nobody remembers that wasn't the story that they were leaking and dripping a year ago. This is the one now, because it does just make them seem generous. Also, what they want when they do eventually do it, okay, they're meant to be taking £40 million out of the club in January as their final loan repayment.
Yep.
That's due. It's 43, something 43 million pounds.
42.8 million pounds.
There you go.
Kieran Maguire, thank you. Price of football.
No,
good guy to listen to.
He's brilliant. When they're not going to be able to do that.
Well, the club does not actually have the cash on hand for that.
No. So when they don't, they're going to want us to know how generous they've been. And when we can't then buy any more players, even though really, after everybody has been bought and sold, outside of our transfer window, Chicharito was sold. You talk about Ajeti, but Ajeti was bought in within our transfer window. Chicharito's been sold outside the transfer window. Actually, they can pay Pellegrini off with that money. It's sat there currently. When they when they eventually do pay Pellegrini off, it just suits their purposes for everyone to think, oh, okay, we don't have any money because they paid 15 to 20 million. The other thing I'd like to point out is nobody, when they dismiss their contract, it's not a redundancy payment from a normal company. Spurs have just got rid of Pochettino. Spurs have not given Pochettino 8 million for every season he has remained on his contract. Pochettino is still getting paid monthly. That's the reality of the situation until they come to an agreement. If they can't, a tribunal will come into play. These things take months and months and months to sort out. There is going to be no big payment. All that will happen is the payroll will continue to tick on, and Pellegrini will continue to get his money on a monthly basis until the severance payment is agreed. On a 12-month rolling contract is relatively easy to sort out because they're contractually tight. But this is just the financial reality of the situation. It's not a huge amount of money.
To you and I, it's a huge amount of money.
Of course.
To these guys, they're making it seem as if they're pinching pennies. One of the things I'm looking forward to is I've started doing a little bit more research into the value of Sullivan and Gold to see how much they're worth. They're very cautious about how their money is hidden. There may be more money there. There might be less money there. I can't really tell you yet. Hey, dude, I really appreciate the time. I know that it's getting about time for you to actually have something to eat because it's 7:30, 8 o'clock your time.
I've eaten, but thank you. Yeah, it's 10 to 8 here. I've eaten. We're doing our preview. Myself and Gio are doing our preview very shortly. So yeah, but thank you. A pleasure, mate. A pleasure.
No worries. I will put this up. One thing I'll ask you is after I get it up, if you can help me, if I miss getting some of your 10-minute videos put on that you think are relevant, if you can link them to this video once it's up, I'd appreciate that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Gonzo, always good to see you said his name now.
There you go.
That man can bet.